Should I start, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning, students. Once again, myself, Sarita Yadav from Dharavi Kalakila MPS Secondary School. Welcome everyone. Welcome you all to statewide online lectures held by Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation Education Department. Student, I am going to continue with the subject Science and Technology Part 2 and with the topic of animal classification. Okay, last two sessions we had we had discovered we had discussed many points regarding animal classification. Today we are going to continue with session 3. Okay, just quickly let's recall what we had studied during the first two sessions, isn't it? What we had studied? See, first we studied about diversity in animal kingdom, isn't it? We had studied different types of animal and how they are different from each other with respect to different points, like different on the basis of nutrition, on the basis of the sizes, where they, which areas they are found. So there is lot of diversity in animal kingdom. Secondly, we studied what is animal classification. Animal classification means formation of groups and subgroups of animals depending upon similarities and differences among different animals. That is called as animal classification. Then what are the different benefits of animal classification? In that we studied many points, how the classification has made study of animals convenient and easy. How the animal classification has made us to understand animal kingdom easily and more in a better way. Next, we studied how the animal kingdom is classified into two types based on presence and absence of notochord, isn't it? And on the basis of notochord, animal kingdom is divided into two groups, non-chordates and chordates. Next, then we studied the traditional method of animal classification, isn't it? How we saw the kingdom Animalia is divided into two subkingdoms, non-chordates and chordates. And further, these subkingdoms are divided into phylums, subphylums, and classes. And we had started with the subkingdom non-chordates. And non-chordates kingdom, that was conventional system of animal classification, but later on new system of classification was followed. Okay, and it considered different criterias for this new system of classification. In this new system of classification, we had studied some sub points, like what are the different criterias. Okay, first one was grades of organization, second one was body symmetry, third one germ layers, fourth body cavity, and fifth one was body segmentation. Based on these different criterias, we had different type of we understood how were the different criterias considered for this new system of classification. Then nextly, based on this new system of classification, we were going to study the 10 phylums, which were Porifera, Nidaria, Platyhelminthes, Ascomynths, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. And we had started with the first 9 phylums, isn't it? And we started with phylum Porifera. Just quickly, we will go through phylum Porifera. The Porifera are also called as sponges, and they have numerous pores on their body, which is called as ostia and oscula. Porifera are aquatic animals. Most of them are marine and few of them are freshwater dwellers. They have asymmetrical body. Asymmetrical means what? The symmetry is asymmetrical in such a way that if an imaginary axis passes through the body, it does not produces identical halves. Okay. Then in porifera, special types of cells are present. What were the names? What was the name of that special types of cell? Collar cells. Okay. Then even this porifera, as they are called sponges, they do not show locomotion. Okay. They are sedentary animals. Then their spongy body. Spongy body is supported by spicules or spongin fibers. And these spicules, they look like thorn-like structures. It is made up of calcium carbonate or silica. And these sponges feeds upon small organisms which are found in water. And as the water enters in their body, even the small organisms, nutrients enter into their body, and the waste product and the water which entered, it exits or released out from their body through oscula, which is the bigger opening. Then animals belonging to phylum Porifera, they reproduce by budding, asexual method. Okay. And even by sexual method. Beside this, the porifera or sponges, they have good ability of regeneration. And examples were Cycon, Euspongia, commonly known as bath sponge, Halonema, Euplectella. Okay, so these were different examples of phylum Porifera. Now let's move forward to today's session, and we will see now the next phylum. The name is phylum Coelenterata, or also called as Cnidaria. Now see the animals, okay? The animals in this phylum which are found, they are cylindrical in shape or umbrella like shape, okay? So cylindrical, the body of the animal which is cylindrical, it is also called as polyp. Okay. So if it is cylindrical, it is called as polyp. And if it is umbrella-like, then it is called as medusa. So you have to remember, okay, the body of the animal, if it is cylindrical, it is called polyp, or if it is umbrella-like, then it is called medusa. Now let us understand how polyp and medusa are different from each other. Now see polyp, you can see the first picture. Okay, it is a polyp organism, a polyp animal. Now what happens? See the structure. How is the structure of the first picture of the animal in the first picture? Okay, the polyp has a tubular body. You can see it has tubular body with a mouth at the top, surrounded by tentacles. You can see tentacles around the body, around the mouth, isn't it? So this is how you identify a polyp coelenterata. It has a tubular body with a mouth surrounded by tentacles at one end. Okay. Now see the other end. The other end, the other end, if you see, it is blind at the base. See at the bottom. Okay. Other end is blind and it is attached to a pedal disc at the base to the substratum. Okay. So you have to remember at the top, it is a tubular body with a mouth surrounded by tentacles. Other end is blind and it is attached to the substratum. And polyps are typically sessile. Now, what do you mean by sessile? Now, see, students, as I said, the other end is attached to a substratum. So, what happens? It is sessile means it does not move. Okay, it is sedentary. It is attached to a base, so it is present over there. It does not do any locomotion. Okay, the next one, if you see, medusa type of Coelenterata. Now, a medusa form is a form of cnidarian. Okay, it is a form of cnidarian in which the body is shaped like an umbrella. You can see umbrella-like structure, isn't it? So its shape is like an umbrella and with tentacles hanging downwards. Okay, it is a free swimming form. Free swimming form. See, first one, polyp does not move, but medusa form, it swims in water. It freely swims in water. And how it swims? It moves by the rhythmic muscular contraction of this bell. Okay, this bell-like structure and this tentacles. There is a rhythmic muscular contraction which gives a propulsive action against the water. That means what? When the muscles contract, it pushes forward the organism against the current of water. An example, you can see that this picture, it's a jellyfish. So medusa form is a jellyfish is an example of medusa form. Okay, and if you see polyform, sea anemone is an example of polyform. Okay, so this was the first characteristic of the phylum Coelenterata, and very important. Okay, you have to remember this. They are of, based on the shape. They are of two types: polyp and medusa. Polyp is a tubular body with mouth surrounded by tentacles. Okay, at one end, other end is attached to the substratum. Whereas medusa form is umbrella-like with tentacles hanging downwards. And because of the contraction, rhythmic muscular contractions, the medusa swims freely in water. Okay, this was the first characteristic. Let's go on to the next characteristic. Now, see, students, the animals, okay, which are found in phylum Coelenterata, they are aquatic animals. Okay, aquatic means found in water. Now, most of the animals belonging to this phylum are marine. Marine means found in oceans, seas, salty water. Few species are also found in fresh water. Fresh water means rivers, lakes, the water which is not salty. Okay. Next point, body. The body of these animals is radially symmetrical and diploblastic. See, last session, when we studied different criterias, we had discussed these points, radially symmetrical and diploblastic. Okay, so let us just go through quickly. Nigerian animals, their body is radially symmetrical. That means what? Say this picture. Okay, if you see this picture, what is radial symmetry? Animals with radial symmetry have body parts arranged around a central axis. This imaginary, okay, number of imaginary axis, it passes through this central axis. It looks like wheel symmetry. Okay, so such type of symmetry is called radial symmetry. Next one, diploblastic. Now, what do you mean by diploblastic? This organism's body, okay, they consist of two germs layer. Okay, two germ layers are present. That's why diploblastic. Diplo means two and blastic means germ layer. Last time I had explained how blastocyst multiplies and then it further develops into germ layers. And three types of germ layers are present. But if only two layers are present, then it is called diploblastic. And which are those two layers? The layer is ectoderm and endoderm. Which one is not present? Mesoderm. Okay. So the two germ layers which are present are ectoderm and endoderm. Okay. And mesoderm is absent. So next characteristics. Next characteristic. Now see, very important and some very um, new characteristics which we might have not heard also. Now these animals, which are there in the phylum Coelenterata, the body of these organisms, they have nidoblast, okay, bearing tentacles are present around the mouth. Now see what I just explained. Around the mouth, there are there are many tentacles, isn't it? Now in this tentacles, if you see, there are nidoblast. Okay. Now what is nidoblast? Nidoblast are special type of stinging cells. Stinging cells means what? If we come in contact with this nidoblast, we will feel pain. Okay. It will like some thorn is pricking to our body. So they are like, that's why it is called stinging cells. And what is the function of nidoblast? The function of nidoblast, the a type of stinging cells, is it injects toxins in the body of prey. See what happens whenever these animals, they feel like they are in danger or some predator is trying to catch them. So what it does, it injects toxin, poison in their body in order to escape. Okay. So many a times what happen when humans, they are they come in contact with these animals in water. Okay. Then this nidoblast injects toxins in their body, and which is very painful. Okay. It's very painful. It's not like a small stinging sensation. It is very painful. Then that's why, as this nidoblast is present in the tentacles, coelenterates are also called cnidarians. See, just at the top I have written the name Coelenterata and Cnidaria, phylum name, isn't it? So Coelenterata is also called Cnidaria because they contain these specialized cells called nidoblast. Okay, very important characteristic. Now next, as I said, their body contains tentacles, isn't it? Their body contains tentacles. What is the function of tentacles? Now, tentacles helps in capturing the prey. Okay. Now, see, they are freely moving. Some are attached to the substratum, so they do not show any locomotion. But whenever any other organism or smaller organisms come nearby, this tentacles, what it does, it helps to capture the prey. Okay, capture that food and derive nutrition. So they also help for protection too. As I said, they have stinging cells. So in order to save themselves, in order to protect themselves from the prey, they are useful. Now example is Hydra. You can see the picture of Hydra, how Hydra looks, isn't it? And Hydra diagram is also given in your notebook. Now see, science too means diagram, very essential. So you have to be aware with the different labels of different organisms. Okay, diagrams very important. So each and every diagram of the lesson, you should be ready, or you should be aware of it. You should practice it. Okay, so Hydra is one of the important diagrams. And you can see jellyfish also. Jellyfish also, they have the tentacles are hanging. Then they have stinging cells, and jellyfish, mind you, can give you a very painful stinging if you come in contact with them. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Continuing with the phylum Coelenterata or Cnidaria. Okay, we are going to see the different examples which are there, which belong to this phylum. Okay, first one is Adamsia, commonly called as sea anemone. See, look at the picture. Isn't it beautiful? Yes. Okay. Next example is Physalia, Portuguese man of war. Okay. Another common name, Portuguese man of war. Now, why this name, Portuguese man of war? Now, see in the picture, you can look how it looks, as something is floating on water, isn't it? So it looks like an vessel, or it looks like a submarine which were used during wars and all in water bodies. Okay, so that's why the name Portuguese man of war. Next example belonging to this, your a very common one which we know by the name jellyfish, but the scientific name is but the more appropriate name is Aurelia. Okay, so jellyfish also belongs to this phylum. Next one, corals. You have heard about corals, isn't it? Corals also belong to this phylum Coelenterata. How it looks? A very beautiful structure, a very beautiful picture. Now, corals, just a brief information. Corals, you might have heard about the famous Great Barrier Reef. There are many colonies of corals present in the ocean body near Australia. Okay, so coral reefs are present in ocean. These reefs are actually colonies of specific cnidarians. Colonies means what? Similar type of cnidarians grow together in colonies. Okay, then from these corals, a very precious stone called coral. Okay, in Marathi we called it as pora, and coral powder, and that is also called as praval bhasma. Okay, these two things are obtained from corals. Okay, and these two things they are used in Ayurveda. They are, that's why we humans try to derive them from the coral reefs. Okay, but we are, due to our selfish nature, we are harming them. And now today's condition is like that. The corals are an endangered species. Okay, their number is dwindling. So it's very necessary that we should not harm them. We should not destroy them. Okay, for our benefits. So these are the various examples of the phylum Coelenterata: Adamsia, Physalia, Aurelia, and corals. So that was phylum Coelenterata. Now next phylum which we are going to discuss. See, first one was Porifera, also called as sponges. Second phylum was Coelenterata, also called as Cnidaria. Now let's move on to third phylum in the non-chordate kingdom. Okay, and that phylum is Platyhelminthes. Now, students, see, if you understand the name, okay, then easily you can remember one or two characteristics. Well, so whenever any question related to the phylum characteristic is asked, if you remember the meaning of the names easily without studying, you can write 2-3 characteristics. Okay. Now see, Platyhelminthes. Okay. Now, if you see the animal's body, the animals which belong to this phylum, their body is slender and flat like structure, like a leaf or a strip. And that's why they are called as flatworms. See, platy means flat and helminthes means worms. Okay, so all the flatworms are included in phylum Platyhelminthes. So if you remember the meaning of Platyhelminthes, that is, platy means flat, helminthes means worms. So easily you can write the characteristic. Flatworms, okay? And their body, how are flatworms? Their body is slender and flat like a leaf or a strip. That was the first characteristic. Okay, you can see in the picture. Various examples, if you see tapeworms, flukes, planarians, okay, these are different flatworms. And by the picture, you can understand how their body is slender, isn't it? And even flat. Liver fluke body is flat like a leaf. Next, next characteristic is the animals. Most of the animals of this phylum are endoparasites. Okay. Now, what do you mean by endoparasites? The endoparasites, see, parasites means what? Which derives nutrition from some other organism. Okay, we are talking about right now, we are talking about animals. Okay, so we will just pay our attention to animals. Parasites, these parasites, they derive their nutrition from some other animal or organism. But see, it is endo. Endo means these animals or parasites live within the body of the host. Okay, host. What is host? The host is the organism in which these animals are present in the body of that, within the body of that animal. Okay, so that animal which is giving the nutrition, okay, that is called as host. Now, for example, you might have seen many a times worms are there present in your stomach, isn't it? So you are the host, and the worms which are present in your body, in your stomach or intestine, they are the parasites, and they derive all the nutrition from your body. Now, how are these animals? Few species are free living and aquatic. Okay, that means what? There are few species of this worms. They are found in water bodies. They are free living organisms. You can see. Okay, so endoparasite means internal parasites that live within the body of the host. Various examples: protozoans are there. Okay, roundworms are there. Then flatworms belonging to this phylums. Okay, these are all endoparasites example. Now see, many a times what happens when we suffer from this worms present within our body, some clinical signs, okay? What happens? Weight loss. Weight loss means our weight, though we are eating, we are having proper food and all, still our weight is not increasing. So weight loss, because whatever we are eating, whatever nutrition we are deriving, that is all taken by this parasites. Then even hair coat, poor hair coat, even the hair density lessens. Weakness, as nutrition is deriving by our nutrition is being taken by these parasites, we are feeling weakness. Okay, colic. Colic means stomach pain. We have pain in our stomach, isn't it? So these are some clinical signs when parasites are present within our body. Next, Next characteristics of the animals of phylum Platyhelminthes. C. Body is acoelomate and bilaterally symmetrical. Last session we had discussed all this. Now what is acoelomate? Acoelomate means absence of body cavity or coelom. Body cavity is also called as coelom. Okay, so there is absence of this body cavity or coelom between the body and internal organs. Okay, so the animals belonging to this phylum, they are acoelomate. There is the body cavity is absent. That's why their body is acoelomate. And bilaterally symmetrical. Now you can see the first picture. The axis, with the imaginary axis, divides the body of an organism into two equal halves. So such type of symmetry is called as bilaterally symmetrical. Got it? So this is the first point which we discussed. Body is acoelomate and bilaterally symmetrical. Secondly, acoelomate, I explained, it is absence of body cavity. Third, how is the body? What type of germ layers are present? Okay, the body is, these are triploblastic. These are triploblastic. Okay, now what do you mean by triploblastic? I had said triplo means three germ layers. Their body, they consider they are triploblastic in nature. So three germ layers are present. And what are the names? Three germ layers: endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. Got it? So you have to remember. These are one of the important characteristics: acoelomate, bilaterally symmetrical, and triploblastic. If it is triploblastic, that means three germ layers, namely endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm are present. Next, we will see the different example with one more characteristic is there. That is the animals of this phylum, they are hermaphrodite. Okay. Now hermaphrodite means what? Hermaphrodite means male and female reproductive systems are present in the same animal body. Okay. That means the animal which is belonging to this phylum, they have both systems present in a same animal body, male also and female also. And when this happens, such animals are called hermaphrodite. Okay. Now, different examples of this phylum are tapeworm. See how it looks. Okay, tapeworms are found inside our body. Okay, so look at the picture. So sometimes if you see, you will easily identify, oh, tapeworm was present inside my body. Then liver fluke. See, this is how liver fluke looks. Third one, planaria. Planaria, see, you can see this body. Okay, it is flat and smooth. It is not segmented. There is no segmentation. So you have to remember, segmentation is not there, okay, in planaria. So these are various examples of tapeworm, liver, various examples of animals belonging to the phylum Platyhelminthes. Once again, I'm telling you, platy means flatworms. So all the worms which are included in this phylum, they are flat in nature. Okay. Now, with respect to Platyhelminthes, some points which you have to remember. Okay. Many a times, what happen? We get infected with this tapeworms. Now, these tapeworms, they are they enter in our body, okay, and we get infected. So we have to take care that we are, in order to save ourselves from this, every time we have to wash our hands before eating, because it is through food, through contaminated water, or through contaminate, if those organisms come in contact with us, okay, they enter in our body through our mouth. Okay, so we have to wash our hands, and regularly we have to wash vegetables and fruits regular nicely, because the eggs of these tapeworms, they are so minute. If they are present in vegetables, we will not be able to see with our naked eye. So that's why we have to wash our fruits and vegetables nicely, okay, and regularly. Next phylum. The next phylum is Ascomynthus. Now see, by the name, again I'm telling you, understand the meaning of the name. Ascomynthus, okay? Mynthus is there, that means, helminthes is there, that means these are also worms. But these are roundworms. The body of the worms, or the animals which are found in this phylum, they are long, thread-like structure, and it is cylindrical in shape. That's why they are also called as roundworms. Okay, so flatworm in phylum Platyhelminthes, and roundworm in phylum Ascomynthus. Okay, so that was the first characteristic, first information you have to remember. Why they are called roundworms? Because body of this animal is long, thread-like, or cylindrical. Second, you have to remember the body. Just wait a minute. These animals, the body is non-segmented. Body of these animals is non-segmented. Non-segmented means what? Not composed of or containing segments. See, last time I had said, what are segments? The repeating units, okay, similar type of units, smaller units, which are repeating itself, are called as segments. If the segments are present, then the animal is segmented. If the segments are absent, then we call them non-segmented. So the roundworms, they do not have segments, but it has a tough cuticle. Now, what is cuticle? Cuticle is like an outer covering layer which is present on the outer side, Okay, it is covering the body. So you have to remember the body is non-segmented and covered with a tough cuticle. Next, these animals are also, like your Platyhelminthes, the animals of Ascalminthus, that means roundworms, they are also endoparasites. Okay, parasites that live within the body of the host. And few species are free living also. So you have to remember, see, one characteristic is common in both Platyhelminthes also, Ascalminthus also. So it becomes easier to remember. Okay, so these roundworms, they are also endoparasites. Some species are free living. You can see in the picture, it's a picture of pinworm. Okay, this one. This picture is of a pinworm, which is found in the body of humans. Okay, then even the Ascaris is also there. Ascaris male and female. These are called intestinal worms. Okay, they are found in our intestine. The larvae or the egg, okay, which contains the larvae, enters in our body. Now, when it enters, then what happens? They get enter in our intestine. They derive the nutrition over there. Then they grow. Then through our excretory process, they are thrown out of the body. So this is how the life cycle of this worms is continuing. But how it enters? Again, these are present in soil, okay? Soil or fecus. So when the children, especially children, they have habit of playing in soil. So what happens? Their hands get dirty, the soil particles get into their nails and all. So if some children do not wash their hand properly, or if those soil particles enters into the nail. We have the habits, few children have the habit of nail biting. So through that, it enters into the body of that children. And then the life cycle continues from over there. So that's why we have to see that we regularly and properly clean our hands and mouth. Okay, we have to wash our hands regularly. The next characteristic is the body. The body of these animals, just wait a minute. Body of these animals is triploblastic. Triploblastic means made up of 3 germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. See again, this is also the characteristic common in Platyhelminthes. So easily you can remember there are characteristics which are similar in both phylums. Okay, then body is pseudocoelomate. Now see, in Platyhelminthes, it was acoelomate. That means body cavity was absent. But in case of Ascalminthus, body is pseudocoelomate. Now, what do you mean by pseudocoelomate? That means any organisms which has false body cavity, they are called as pseudocoelomate. Okay, cavity is present, but that is not a true cavity. It is a false cavity, as it is not formed from not surrounded by mesoderm, or not formed from the gut. Okay, so that's why body is pseudocoelomate. Okay, next, these animals are unisexual animals. Now compared to Platyhelminthes, which are hermaphrodite, these worms are unisexual animals. What do you mean by unisexual animals? Organism will be either a male or it will be either a female. Okay, such animals are called as unisexual. And you can see the picture of roundworm. This is the Ascalminthus animals, Ascaris. Okay, you can see the female is longer compared to the male, and the male tail is slightly curved compared to the female ones. Okay, so this roundworms are unisexual. Now see the different examples. This types of this all worms can be found within our body. Okay, so just see ascaris, male and female. Diagram very important. Okay, you have to remember male ascaris is smaller compared to female one. Female tail is straighter compared to male ascaris tail is slightly curved at the bottom. Okay, and female ones are cylindrical and long. Mouth is at the top. These animals are unisexual, so male and females are present, also called as intestinal worms. Second example is filarial worm, again many a times found within our body. And third one, see the third one is so interesting, loa loa. Okay, the name is loa loa, commonly called as eyeworm. Why it is called eyeworm? You can identify from the picture. Okay, it travels right through your body up to your eyes, and it can be found within the eyes. That's why commonly called as eyeworm. A nice name, isn't it? Loa loa. So these are the example of phylum Ascomynthus. Next, next characteristic is phylum Annelida. Now phylum Annelida, how is this again? See how are the animals? Okay, the animal of this, the body of the animals is long, cylindrical, and metamerically segmented. What do you mean by metamerically? Okay, metamerically means it is a segment. Okay, many segments are present. You can see in the picture of the earthworm. Now, metamerically means it possesses a linear series of body segments. You can see how the segments are there. It is linear series, linear in nature. So such type is called metamerically segmented. Most of the animals are free living. Okay, they are free living. But few species are also ectoparasites. Now, free livings, they can be found in water, marine water, they can be found in fresh water, or even on land, soil. Okay, so even on they are terrestrial in nature. Few species are ectoparasites. And now see ecto, the first two we discussed of Platyhelminthes and Ascomynthus, they were endoparasites. But these species are ectoparasites. What are ectoparasites? Parasites that live on or in the skin, but not within the body. Okay, means what? These parasite derives nutrition from the host, but no, it does not enter within the body from outside. Now, for example, mosquito. Mosquito sucks your blood from outside. So it is an ectoparasite. Ecto one. Okay. Same way, you can see in the picture leech. What it does, leech attach itself to the skin of the humans and then it sucks the blood. So that's why few species are ectoparasites. Again, body of this animal is triploblastic. 3 germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. Triploblastic in nature. Next, bilateral symmetry. As you can see, what is bilateral symmetry means? The animal's body, if you see, if the imaginary axis passes through their body, it divides them into two equal halves. That's why it is said it is having bilateral symmetry. Next, phylum Annelida. How is the body? See, body is eucoelomate. Eucoelomate, or it can be also called as coelomate. The meaning is true body cavity formed from mesoderm or gut. In such type, see how is the cavity? In this organism, cavity is true, cavity is present. Cavity is true. Why? Because it is formed from mesoderm. Okay. So that's, and even the entire body cavity is lined with mesoderm tissue. That's why it is called as eucoelomate. Also, if you write coelomate, then too it is correct. Locomotion. Now, locomotion is the next point. Now, these animals, they have setae or parapodia or suckers for locomotion. Okay. in the structure. In the picture, if you see, let me zoom it. Yes, you can see these are external structure which are used for locomotion. Now, what is parapodia? You can see in the picture, there are some lateral extensions. You can see this one, lateral extensions. Okay, these are all called parapodia, and it is supported by chitin. Okay, so and at the end of parapodia, you can see bristle, hair-like structure. They are called as setae. Okay, and they both are important for locomotion and digging. Okay, suckers there. And one more point, the body of this organism is covered with a special cuticle. I had already discussed the outer covering, tough outer covering is called cuticle. So, and suckers, I'll show in the next picture how it looks. Again, the animals are animals of this phylum. They can be hermaphrodite or unisexual. That means what? They are either hermaphrodite, means there are some animals which are hermaphrodite. They have both systems, reproductive system, males and female. Then even some species are unisexual. That means what? It is they are either male or they are either female. Next, see the various examples of this phylum Annelida. Earthworm. Okay, common earthworm we are very much aware. Leech. Okay, leech is also an example. Earthworm diagram is important, and you can see the picture next to leech. This is the picture of suckers. Okay, and leech, what it does with the help of these suckers, it attaches to the body of the host and sucks the blood. And third example is nereis, also commonly called as clam worm. Okay, so these are the various examples of the phylum Annelida. Next, question and answers. Students, quickly, very, very easy questions I am going to ask. If you know the answer, just tell. In coelenterate, dash are useful for capturing the prey, whereas dash injects the toxin in the body of the prey. Can anyone give the answer? If you know, unmute yourself and answer.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, sure.
Uh, in coelentrates,
Coelenterate.
tentacles, coelenterate tentacles are useful for capturing the prey, whereas nidoblasts inject the toxin in the body of the prey.
Very good. Yes. Okay. Correct answer. Tentacles are used for capturing the prey, whereas nidoblast injects the toxin in the body of the prey. Next one. Which specialized cells are present in the body of coelenterate? See, I said there are some specialized cells. What was the name? Collar cells, nidoblast, germ cells, ectodermal cells. Anyone?
Nidoblast?
Yes, correct. Nidoblast. Okay. See, in Porifera, collar cells are there. In Coelenterata, nidoblast is there. Okay. So, nidoblast is the correct answer. Third one. Which of the following animals' body shows bilateral symmetry? See the example. Very easily you can identify.
Ma'am, can I?
Starfish, jellyfish, earthworm, sponge. Yes.
Ma'am, earthworm.
Yes, very easy to remember. Earthworms. Earthworm shows bilateral symmetry. Now this one, you have to identify, okay? I live in your small intestine. My body is thread-like or cylindrical, also called as roundworms. Identify me.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, only I think one student is only answering. Yes, sure, go forward.
Acelminthus.
The phylum is Ascalminthus, and you can give example also Ascaris. Okay, intestinal worms. They are also called as intestinal worms. So correct answer would be Ascaris belonging to the phylum Ascomyces. Now, any student, if you have any doubt, students, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Then shall I wind up with the session, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.